Welcome back to our classes, which comes to you via my channel, the Pen Collective. Now, last time we looked at the important reasons why you should be a persistent reader. Now, I promise that today we look at things to do with the skills necessary for writing effectively, the skills that are necessary for producing content that is meaningful, content that is cohesive, content that is logical, and content that can uh, assist you as a student to write your exams in a way that attracts a lot of marks for you from the examiners. Now, before we look at the importance of acquiring effective writing skills, I'd like us to review briefly some of the things that we discussed last time about the effectiveness of persisting in reading. The reason why I'm stressing this is because as the world is currently situated, as the world is currently developing, technology is actually competing with various forms of activities. Technology is coming in between us and the way that we used to do certain things. Particularly, this is very important in the way we are educated, in the way we acquire knowledge, and in the way this knowledge is presented to us. No doubt, we have to learn to live with technology. We have to learn to cope with the ubiquity. Ubiquity is from the word ubiquitous. In other words, something ubiquitous is something that exists almost everywhere. So we can say that at the present moment, technology is so ubiquitous that we depend on it to perform most of our daily functions. Now, one point I need to stress here is that we should watch, or we should guard against the pervasive nature of technology. We should watch out for the negative influences that technology can introduce in the way we interact, in the way we communicate, and in the way we do so many things. Now, many parents, particularly now that students are at home and you need to do homeschooling, you need to supervise the schoolwork. I know most parents are finding it a little bit difficult to contain their children in the way they use technology. Many students, many young people spend a lot of time on the screen, either watching television or playing video games or just using their mobile phones to chat with colleagues, to chat with friends and schoolmates. And this time, if not checked, can have a lot of negative consequences. And one of the ways in which we can employ technology usefully is to limit its use only to the most important things that we wish to do. When it comes to learning, right now, a lot of lessons like this one are on digital platforms, and here technology is playing a crucial role in helping to disseminate information, to disseminate news, and to spread classes to every reach within our country or to every reach within the globe, so that students can continue learning despite the presence of the coronavirus. Now, something that needs to be emphasized here is the fact that children and young people should be limited in the way they use technology. And the best way to do this is to encourage them to practice a lot of reading. I pointed last time, and I'm repeating once more, that reading has a lot of inherent or has a lot of benefits that accumulate gradually that will only be realized over a long period of time. So it's not something that happens instantly, like somebody switching on and off a light. It is something that it is a skill that is developed step by step through persistence. So last time I mainly dealt with the need to spend more of our time reading than using the technological gadgets. Now, some of the points that we mentioned in our previous lesson were as follows. Now, reading will help to improve your performance in all the school subjects that you study. Reading will help to improve your performance in all the school subjects that you study. This is quite crucial, this is vital and very, very essential for your studies, because if you're not able to read well and comprehend what you're reading, then you will automatically find it difficult to understand the different concepts in different subjects. You will find it difficult to convey or to express your ideas when you're in an exam situation, and you will not be able, therefore, to perform well. So it is important that you master the skills of reading accurately and fluently. The need to read, all of us know how to read. We can string words in a sentence together and absorb the meaning, but we need to develop certain analytical skills. We need to read critically by thinking through about the issues we're reading, by trying to cast or to place the concept that we come across in different contexts, and by trying to apply what we learn in our everyday life. That is very important insofar as communication is concerned. So one of the things we noted last time is that extensive and persistent reading will enable you have a better grasp of the subjects that you study at school. That is point number one. The second point that we looked at was that it will help you to perfect your communication skills in general. Let me just point out that occasionally you'll see me looking down at my mechanical slides, I call them so, as a guide, as a point of reference, so that I do not wander off the subject matter at hand. Now, I'll say that the second point is that reading will help you to perfect your communication skills in general. That is something we looked at last time. Thirdly, we said that reading will guide you through the process of learning and acquiring new concepts. That is very important. As you read extensively, you will find it easier to understand, interpret, and even apply the new ideas, the new concepts that you come across as you read. Again, it will enable you to acquire more knowledge. That is almost obvious. It is something that needs not to be debated. The more reading you do, the more you will acquire or expand your knowledge base. Again, it will keep you with essential or vital research skills, because as you read, your mind will be engaged in absorbing information from different sources, in trying to connect links between different ideas, different concepts that you come across. And again, your mind will be trying to analyze all the materials or all the content that you come across as you read. So this is one means by which you can perfect your skills as a researcher. And since we learn in order to make our lives better, these are skills that will come in very, very helpfully to you even after you have left school and you are engaged in the pursuit of your specific career or your chosen career in life. So by reading extensively, you will be perfecting your research skills because you will find it easy to collect, to analyze information and use them in certain specific ways. Again, reading will enable you to expand your vocabulary. That is something we said. As you read, you come across different words, you come across new usage, how language is applied in different ways. And these are things you don't necessarily need to cram because the more frequent times you read, the more you actually encounter phrases used in certain contexts or situations, and this will, as you read widely, you actually learn to internalize some of the things you come across so that over time you become a competent speaker, you become good at applying and using language in different ways. So it will expand your vocabulary and expose you to different ways of using patterns of language, of using structures of language to convey ideas or to say certain things. So vocabulary is important in everyday communication, and the wider your vocabulary is, the easier you will find it to convey different ideas in different ways, in different situations, to different audiences. In our everyday life, we interact at different levels, either officially, at personal levels. Sometimes in personal relationships, we communicate and we relate at very intimate levels. So the more you read, the more you get exposed to different ideas, different ways of communicating, and these will go a long way in making you a better communicator, both in the written form and in the spoken form as we're doing right now. So another thing we also said is that reading will make you familiar with different styles or models of writing. We've already said that. And then it will also widen your scope of thought. One thing I mentioned last time is that there's a relationship between reading and writing. The two are interrelated. When you are in the act of writing, you also, without knowing, or you also acquire some degree of fluency. You also acquire some level of involvement in what you're doing. So reading and writing, I said last time, are very important for improving our cognitive abilities. Cognition, I said, is the ability to reason, the ability to think through, the psychological way in which we use our minds to see ideas, to place them in certain contexts, to apply them in different ways in order to help us. So all these are sharpened and are made better if we persistently practice our reading. And so in line with that, remember I said that most of my lessons will be interrelated. I want us to look at, it's pretty hot. You can see where I am. I have to apologize for this. Where I am is a little bit squeezed, and the heat is too much over here, so you can see me sweating. I'm sorry for that. Maybe I should take time off a bit and wipe away my sweat. I'll just do that. Well, that's a little bit better now. It's pretty hot. I apologize for that. Circumstances dictates. I'm operating in a rural area where facilities are a little bit hard to come by. So this is something to be expected. It's normal, and don't worry. Just pay attention to my lesson. Follow what I'm trying to say. Now, as I have mentioned, there is a connection between reading and writing. The more you read, the easier you'll find it to write and express yourself in different ways. This is something I really want to stress. I want to really emphasize this. And I'm appealing to parents out there to try as much as possible to make your sons and daughters friends of book rather than friends of phones and video games. This will be important. Make them realize that these will be very important for their life later on. So today, I'd like us to look at a few important elements of writing and writing skills and why it is important for you to equip yourself with fluent, logical, and meaningful ways of expressing yourself through the art of writing. Sometimes you can have ideas, but if you do not know how to convey these well, then you might find it very difficult to pass on your ideas, or if it's in an exam situation, you might find it difficult to answer questions correctly. Most students actually do not fail their exams because they are stupid or because they never learned anything. They fail mainly because of their level of comprehension, the way their register is not well developed. And some fail because despite having ideas about a particular subject, they find it difficult to express these well in writing. That is why instead of spending a lot of your time chatting to friends on Facebook and other social platforms, instead of taking a lot of time watching videos and watching television, sometimes it is important to take time off and just read and write. Practice reading. You can describe yourself, you can describe your family. Make it a habit of always trying to capture whatever is in your imagination or whatever you're thinking about in writing. This, in the long run, will benefit you in several ways, especially as a learner where you constantly come across new ideas and you're expected to apply these ideas in different situations. It is important and quite essential that you perfect your skills in the art of writing. Now, having said that, last time I said that to write and to read well, you need to devise plans for carrying out these activities. You just do not surprise yourself into reading even when you are not psychologically prepared to do so. Or you can't just begin writing without advanced plan on what you want to write about and how you want to write. This requires you to set aside specific time for reading and specific times for writing. I've used the word persistent because these are things you need to do at all times in every situation as long as you are a learner. Now, there are several important reasons why you need to perfect your writing skills. We are going to go through some of the very important reasons which necessitates that you acquire or you develop the ability to communicate well through the written form. Now, writing is an art of putting down our thoughts and ideas through symbols, through letters, and through meaningful sentences. The words, the symbols we use, the letters we use must be put in a meaningful way in order for writing to be effective. All of us can write, but not all of us can write fluently and effectively. So, as a student, you need to practice as much as you can to be a good writer who can articulate, who can put the ideas that you have in a way that can make sense to a reader. Now, writing comes through as very effective when you practice it as regularly as possible. It is just the same, it is just related to reading. Both reading and writing requires practice. I remember when I was at school, one of the phrases or one of the expressions I commonly heard from my teachers, from my guardians, was that practice makes perfect. So in order for you to perfect your skills in writing, in order for you to perfect your skills of reading, you need to practice as often as possible. It is only more practice that creates perfection by consistently and persistently taking part in reading activities or writing different compositions, different descriptive articles. You will improve your skills. It is not a one-day thing. It is not something that you do once and then you expect to achieve results. These results are gradual. Over time, after a long period of consistently, constantly, and regularly practicing these activities, you will be very competent, you will be very skillful. It takes a lot of sweat, of course. I know reading for its own sake sometimes is not easy for many people. Some of us find it to be an activity that is exhausting or that is not fulfilling or which does not entertain them in the way that they would like to be entertained. But I would like to assure you that the contrary is true about using readership as an element of passing time, as an element of relaxation, or as an element of recreation. Reading is a very important recreational activity for your information. I'll stress this because when I move around or when I meet many young people, especially students, even at home where I live, most of the young people here spend a lot of disproportionate time on their phones, scrolling through, tapping screens here and there. And one thing I want to make you aware of at this stage is that science research by many credible organizations has proved that addiction to technology, addiction to the screen has a negative effect on our ability to concentrate. Notice the act of scrolling through a phone, the act of just tapping icons, tapping on what you need is not so much involving, it's so easy. And therefore, one research has conclusively stated that addiction to technology actually makes people to have short attention span. You're actually conditioned, especially when you're browsing. You know, the internet has a lot of information, has a lot of different activities that you would want to take part in. And therefore, as you keep on clicking from one web page to another, clicking from one set of ideas to another, scrolling through your phone in search of whatever you're looking for. If it's not for a specific purpose, then chances are you will end up scrolling and moving very fast between different web pages. You'll keep on jumping from idea to another idea without actually paying much attention. And this is what contributes to attention deficit. So there's a school of thought out there that millennials or people of the Generation X are people who are not predisposed to concentrate a lot. They are not well equipped to pay keen attention to what they are doing because they are conditioned to do so by the phones they use. But if you can divide your time equally between using your cell phone, for example, playing your favorite video game, watching your favorite soap opera on television, if you can divide your time between engaging in activities that really involve your mind, like reading or writing, then you're going to benefit quite a lot. So in order to be successful in most of the academic discipline that you study in school, you need to perfect both your reading and your writing skills. Now, with that in mind, I would like us to look at the importance of writing in relation to most of the activities you engage in as a learner. Now, at a personal level, I'm going to try as much as possible to use remedial to design tasks that will make it easy for you to engage in reading activities. It is important to note that just like reading, writing also should be something you enjoy, something interesting. And if you have to practice writing activities at home or during your spare time, it is essential that you begin by writing things that interest you. Begin writing about experiences that you can relate to easily, because it is very hard. Writing in itself is difficult, and it becomes doubly hard if you have to write about ideas you're not familiar with, if you have to write about things you are not so conversant with. It is just like asking a boy or a girl in the village who has never been to a town before, who does not know anything about urban or city life, to describe life in a town. She would find this very difficult. But if you are to ask such a student to describe, say, life or activities in a local market, to describe life in the village, they would find this appealing and easy to do. So while structuring the activities that you want to participate in as you are practicing writing, start with activities that interest you, activities that can make a lot of sense, activities that you can relate to easily. Now, it is important to get feedback from somebody more knowledgeable about the subjects you are writing about. Have somebody, say your parents, say a guardian, say you can engage a teacher or a friend who is more knowledgeable about the areas you are interested in writing about, to give you feedback. And these feedbacks are not just meant to be critical, but they are meant to be as frank and as honest as possible. You know, just like Stephen R. Covey said in one of his books, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that weakness is a strength. You cannot begin to improve if you've not identified your weakness. So acknowledging and admitting that you have certain weaknesses, you have certain learning disabilities, will be a very important step towards beginning to do something in order to improve your weak state. So before you acknowledge that you are weak in a particular area, you must first before you can begin to improve or to make ways of bettering yourself, you must first acknowledge and accept yourself that you are weak. So it will not be a bad idea to ask, say, your older brother, your sister, or any person around who you believe has more knowledge about a particular area to assist you, to guide you. Admission that you don't know is actually a very important step towards knowing. Yes, we begin from the known to the unknown. So if you don't admit that you don't know, if you're not free and frank with yourself, then you're not going to learn. I hope I'm making sense. This applies much more so to your reading and writing activities. Where you are not sure, where you are not certain, it is important to consult. If you're on social media, for example, instead of spending time chatting about things that are not so beneficial to you, you can raise a question, say even on Facebook or on Instagram. Just ask a question. And as I mentioned last time, there's a good platform where you can gain a lot of knowledge from diverse sources, from different locations, and from different people. This is a platform known as Quora, Quora. Quora is a social media platform where you can pose a question and anybody from anywhere in the world comes up with an answer. I find it quite interactive and I find it quite informative. So rather than being on Facebook or Instagram, where all you see are images and jokes that are cracked in here, if you have access to the internet and a computer, concentrate, focus more on sites like Quora. If you have an academic question, maybe a concept that you never learned well in school, you can simply post the question on Quora, and believe me, within no time, you're going to get answers from all sorts of people in different locations. Now, be very careful with the answers you get. Not all of them might be accurate. You know, people respond to questions in subjective ways, according to the way they are seeing it, according to their perception, according to their ideas, sometimes according to their cultural background. So it is important that you try to verify the authenticity. You try to check and ensure that the information or the answers you're getting in such forums are accurate or as near as possible to what might be true. Now, if you do this repeatedly, I assure you that your ability to learn and your ability to grasp different concepts will be heightened. You'll find it easy to answer questions. You'll find it easy to grasp ideas and put them in their right context. That is very important. Sometimes being able to contextually place an idea, being able to relate to a subject in a way that is required comes as a result of frequent readership. Cramming plays an important role, but not in all subjects. Many learners think that cramming and frequent reading mean the same thing. These are two totally different components of the same process. To cram is to master, to memorize, to have in mind. But if you consider the range of subjects you have to cover, if you consider the volume of work that is entailed in your entire curriculum, there's a lot, and arguably it is difficult for one person to cram all the information to cram and memorize all the information. So train yourself to be a reader who learns through inference. You can infer, you can get concepts and try to put them down in writing in the way you understand them, not in the way they have been written, because interpretation and analysis forms a huge part of the learning process. Being able to get some information, digest it, interpret it, and apply it in a given situation. These are processes of learning, and it requires your mind also to process information in a given way in order for you to come up with a meaningful a conclusion or with a meaningful view of what is presented to you through writing. So one way of ensuring that your writing skills are at par is to write as much as you can and always look for a feedback from somebody who has better knowledge or who can guide you through your writing process. Another thing I should mention at this point is that the dictionary is a book that people take for granted. And as I mentioned in the previous lesson, a dictionary is very important because you cannot, without the assistance of somebody else, interpret or know the meaning of different words. You cannot expand your vocabulary if you don't use the dictionary frequently. So make a habit of using a dictionary as much as possible so that whenever you come across words and phrases you don't understand, make a point of checking their dictionary meaning and definition, and then go ahead and find out their contextual usage in different ways and in different situations. You know, sometimes the context in which a word is used can be different from its dictionary meaning. Of course, there has to be a relationship, there has to be a link between the way it's used contextually and its literal meaning, but sometimes there are variances, sometimes there are differences that crop up when words, phrases, or idiomatic expressions are used in different contexts. I'm still going back to reading extensively. You will learn about different contextual usage of words or phrases or figures of speech by exposing yourself to a lot of written content. In other words, not knowledge actually, but language, they say, is acquired. A lot of the things you know in a specific language come to you through frequent use without you actually putting a lot of effort into this. And I wonder why people sometimes find it difficult to express themselves well in English, and yet this is a language that is common. In fact, in some homesteads, English is the medium of communication. People talk in English all the time, so it is something acquired, and to acquire language, you need to be exposed to it as often and as regularly as possible for you to gain mastery, for you to gain better understanding of the way in which a particular language is applied in different situations to express different ideas. So one way of doing, ensuring that your writing improves is to try and recognize patterns of usage, patterns of language use, structures of language application in different situations. Try to imitate the way writers, advanced writers, convey their ideas. When you pick, say, a piece of newspaper, or if you are reading through a set book like The Blossoms of the Savannah, that is one of the set texts, which we shall discuss later down our lessons. Whatever you are reading, always try to be analytical and critical while doing so. Ask yourself questions about why ideas are presented in one way and not in the other way. In other words, be an analytical and a critical reader. And while you are aiming or while you are striving, while you're trying to improve your skills in writing, imitation is not bad in this sense, but you can only imitate what you understand. Don't use a word or a phrase or a sentence out of the context in which it is supposed to be used. Regular reading and regular writing will enable you to develop the skills of using various structures of language in different ways, in different situations, to convey different ideas. So, by paying particular attention to what you're reading, by involving your mind, you will be absorbing a lot of components, a lot of elements that make particular styles and particular ways of writing appealing, fluent, and accurate. While answering exam questions, accuracy is very important. Accuracy, one, in the way you present your ideas, and accuracy in dealing with precisely what the examiners requires of you. This is where many students go wrong. They don't actually take their time to read, digest, interpret questions before they embark on answering it. Always remember that keenness is important in reading. Keenness is important as well in writing. These two are interrelated and they go hand in hand. So if you frequently practice writing, compositions, descriptive passages, discursive passages, analytical passages, historical facts, geographical informations, scientific formulas and processes, if you constantly practice how to write these the way they appear in journals, in magazines, in books, in exam papers, then the skills, you will begin internalizing the skills of conveying or passing on information in a specific or in a given way. Now, I've stressed a lot on using writing as an important art of relaying or conveying information, of ensuring that writing becomes very meaningful to whoever is reading what you're writing, be it an examiner, be it just a casual reader, somebody interested in the materials you're presenting, be it a report that you are asked to make, say, on behalf of the Geographical Society or on behalf of your literature club, or you're asked to write an article for your school magazine. These are writing activities that engage students and ensures that they perfect or become better at writing. Now, I've spoken a lot about the need to develop your writing skills and why it is important to nurture and cultivate a culture of frequently writing. And some of the points that we've looked at briefly include that writing will provide you with the creative ways of expressing yourself, your thoughts, and your ideas. It's a medium of creative expression. So one way you will be able to express your thoughts, you will be able to express your ideas or your feelings is through writing. It is a creative way of expressing yourselves. Now, two, developing writing skills will determine your success later on in life. It will determine your chances of success. One, the ability to write and articulate or put your ideas together well will earn you better marks when you are answering exam questions. And although exams are not a ticket to success, but basically it is an important step towards self-advancement later on in life. So the art of writing well, the ability to convey, to be able to convey your ideas and feelings through the written form or by producing good content is something that will help you to improve yourself, to improve your life, or even to improve your career later on. Writing does not only end in school, it extends even up to your adult life, and therefore you should not think that writing will end with the exams. It won't. In your place of work, when you're employed, say as a journalist, as a doctor, as a lawyer, any profession involves a lot of writing, either in form of reports or in form of passing on information or in form of giving orders. There are various ways in which writing will come in, will come into your life, and in which your ability to write well will influence what you do career-wise. So outside school, it will determine your personal development, and it will influence so many areas of your life, either positively or negatively. But since nobody wants to be encumbered or to be involved or to be caught up in negative trends and negative traits, it is advisable that you practice a kind of writing that will reflect you, that will paint you out as someone knowledgeable, as someone consistent, as someone kind, as someone considerate, as someone who is creative, who can come up with ideas, fresh ideas to engage or to tackle different kinds of situations. Now, as I've already mentioned, you need to base your writing activities on experiences or things that are of interest to you, of things that you are familiar with. A lot of our writing is experiential from the word experience. Something that comes as a result of your experience, something you do or something you know because you've experienced it, is something experiential. Experiential is simply from the word experience. So a lot of your writing ought to be, as much as possible, experiential. In other words, out of things that you've experienced, out of things that you've come in contact with, out of things that you know, and out of things that are important in your life. If you focus your writing activities around such things, then you're going to find it easygoing. You're going to find it enjoyable, actually pleasurable. And the more you write, the more you will want to read, because it is through books that you will be exposed to different types of writings, different types of concepts, different types of ideas. And with time, you will be drawn to the art of reading, to the art of writing as a pleasurable activity, not as something boring, not as something that you have to force yourself to participate in. Again, writing will give you the ability to relay information, to relay reports as accurately as possible, as fluently as you can. This is the most important element of writing. After school. In school, it will help you tackle questions well. It will help you express your ideas. It will help you answer the questions presented to you accurately. But later on in life, when you're not answering questions, of course, life has several questions. Even the challenges you will come across as a career person will entail some degree of involvement that needs you to be an effective communicator through the art of writing. So for this lesson, I'll encourage you to begin practicing how to write. In school, you call it composition writing and structured writing, functional writing, whatever form of writing that you want to engage in, we are going to look later, we are going to look at the steps that you can take in order to produce effective writing. How can you develop your composition? What are the five, or what are some of the basic elements that you need to take into account when you are writing, say, an essay, when you're writing a composition, when you're writing an analytical report, or when you're writing about yourself? What are some of the things that you need to keep in mind while engaging in the writing process? You will realize that for the first 3 lessons, I've concentrated mainly on reading and writing because I want my lessons to develop one from the other. And I just want to alert you that if this is the first time you are logging into my channel, then please go back and look at the first lesson, because the series of lessons I'm going to give throughout my this program will be built one on top of the other. So at this particular moment, I'm trying to develop a relationship between different aspects of the learning process, so that when we'll be tackling, say, structural aspects of language, grammatical usage, wrong usage, frequently made mistakes, how to use idiomatic expressions in particular situations, how to use, say, tenses, for example. People have a lot of experience, a lot of difficulties when it comes to expressing themselves using, say, the present perfect tense or a future perfect tense. Sometimes even the sense they want to impart in a particular situation gets lost in the way in which they try to communicate. So the lessons I'm building a foundation for now will be incremental, and since I'm not yet aware of who my actual audience is out there, I do not yet know who is following my lessons, I've not gotten any feedback, it is very difficult for me to confine myself, for me to limit myself within a certain or within specific areas. But once I shall know who are my students out there, what they need to know, what are their needs, what do they want to learn, then it will be easy for me to customize my lessons to answer specific questions or specific needs. I said that when I post my lessons on either Facebook or whichever, or on YouTube, if you happen to follow what I'm saying, then please send me some feedback. I need to know what you think about my manner or my mode of presentation, what you think about my coverage, so that I can constantly make improvements. One thing I want to assure you is that online learning is not a passing cloud. This is not an activity that has been brought to the fore by the COVID-19 pandemic, but it is a process that has been in the making and which will form a very important component of the learning process. So I know most of us do not have access to the internet. Most of us do not have access to computers. But actually, no, that is not right. We might not have computers, but in every home, I see young boys and girls with very expensive mobile phones, with very expensive smartphones. These are tools we're going to use increasingly with the advancements of technology, with the changing circumstances. Of course, the COVID-19 is going to be a watershed. Things are going to be done a lot differently. Things are going to be done in different ways compared to the way we've been used to doing them. So this is an idea we should start getting used to. If you do not have the equipment that can enable you to access online learning, I suggest that you make plans. As a parent, this is now specifically to parents, please make plans to have at least a computer at home where there's electricity. Make plans to have at least a tablet or even a smartphone that can be devoted specifically to online learning resources. It will be complementary to the usual manner of instructions students get in formal institutions, but to take advantage of the opportunities, to take advantage of the variety of instruction processes that are available on the internet, it is essential, it is quite imperative, it is very important that we begin to equip our homes with tools that can enable our children, that can enable the learners to access online learning. Now, in most homes, you'll find expensive gadgets, state-of-the-art music systems, huge televisions. Why not invest also in a computer? Because it is no longer luxury. This is a very important item. It's going to be very useful for your children as they proceed with their education. So next time we meet during this lesson, during my lessons, I'm going to narrow down the topics I cover to specific issues. How I wish I could get feedback from you. Please, if you come across my video on YouTube, on Facebook, or wherever, don't just like. That is something I find quite amusing. Most of the people who view or who have subscribed to my channel simply like. They don't even go to the extent of sharing. Let us be people who are kind to others. Maybe somebody has access to the internet but is not aware that there is something going on. If you watch this video, for this tutorial, go ahead, like it. Comment, please, either negatively or positively. Whatever comment you have, I'm very open to feedback. I'll not feel hurt. And it's the feedback I get from you that will enable me to design my lessons in ways that can be as beneficial to you as possible. It would be pointless to spend 30 minutes talking on video, and yet at the end of it, the learners come out with nothing. So I would really love to get feedback from you so that I can know how to proceed. Your needs are more important. Your needs are my top priority. How can I best serve your learning needs? So the first two lessons, you will realize, or the first 3 sessions we've had, I've mainly concentrated on laying a foundation for what we're going to do. One thing I can assure you is that I will try as much as possible to tailor my lessons to suit specific needs of different audiences, because I'm not only talking to students from Kenya. I believe there are students from all over the world, from wherever, who might be interested, who may want to become my students on YouTube or whichever other platform we shall use later. So I'll encourage you to give feedback. Tell me how I should present myself. I'm not using slides or other interactive features because of limitations imposed on me by the type of equipment I have and the environment from which I am operating. But I believe with time, I'm going to improve. I'll get better equipment. I'll get a better place in which to record my lessons. You can see I was really sweating a lot, not because of anxiety or fear, but mainly because I'm somewhere a bit confined, a little bit stuffy, and there's not much fresh air coming in. But with time, I know all these will be improved. So to end our lessons today and in subsequent lessons, because this is a language class, I'll always be ending by asking you or challenging you to expand your vocabulary, to acquire new words or to know how different words are used in different circumstances. Now, throughout my talk, I've used several words and phrases, and just to highlight a few, I just want to highlight a few and the way they are used. The first word I've used frequently today is the word convey. So what is the meaning of the word to convey? Knowledge, to convey a feeling, or to convey an idea. Now, to convey is the act of making your thoughts, your feelings, or your ideas known to somebody else. That is to convey. The act of making your thoughts, your feelings, or your ideas known to someone else. Now, I can use an example of the color red, for example. The red color conveys a sense of danger, a sense of vitality. Vitality is from the word vital. Someone vital is someone enthusiastic and energetic. Someone lively, that is somebody vital. So the red color conveys a sense of vitality. People say that when you're putting on the color red, then your intention is to convey, is to pass on some kind of information. And what information does red convey? One, red is commonly used for danger. And two, red is used to indicate somebody vital, somebody enthusiastic, somebody lively, somebody who has a large sense of life, somebody who enjoys life. Sometimes such people like portraying this, conveying this using the color red. So the word convey is to make your feeling, your idea known to someone else. Now, integral to, I've said that reading and writing are integral to your success as a student. Something integral to another is something that matters to a particular situation. So, say, reading is integral to learning. In other words, you cannot learn without reading, or writing is integral to learning. You cannot study well without involving yourself in some form of writing. So, being an essential part of something is to be integral to. Integral to means being an essential part of something. Being an important aspect of something is to be integral to. So in this specific case, I've used the word integral to mean an important extension of your learning process. Another word I've used here is that while you're studying diverse subjects, diverse in this case means in different ways, in many different forms. Diversity is the noun form of the word diverse. So in many different ways, in many different types, in many different styles, in many different forms is the word diverse. Say Kenya is a country composed of diverse tribes. In other words, many different types. So something, if you want to express the idea of something being in many different ways or in many different types, then we're talking of the word diverse. And then the noun form of the word is diversity. And then I've used the term interrelated. Interrelated means connected in a way in which one quality of something influences the quality of another. That is interrelated. So writing and reading are interrelated aspects of studying well. You should practice more reading and you should practice writing as frequently as you can. Not just writing about anything else, but in this specific case, writing about things related to your studies at school. And then another word that I would like us to look at today is advanced. Advanced simply means the high quality of something. Advanced technology means the latest modern, the latest type of technology. And when we talk in terms of age, advanced years means somebody old. He's advanced in years. It's a polite way of saying that someone is old. Or many politicians in Kenya are advanced in years. In other words, they are old. So you can advance. In other words, you can progress to something else. So the word advance can be used differently in different situations to imply different things. That is what I meant by the word contextual. The contextual use of words differ or vary in different situations. Now, another word, I said earlier on that reading and writing will have very important implications for your success in future. Implication here means the possible effects, the possible results, the possible consequences of engaging in an activity. So the implications of not studying hard right now is failure on later on in your exams. So the results, the effects, the consequences of something are the implications of that. What are the implications of the coronavirus to the economy of Kenya, for example? In other words, what will be the results? What will be the effects of the corona pandemic on the economy of Kenya? What are the implications of your staying away from school? What does it mean? What consequences? What results will come out of your being away from school? I've repeatedly used the word essential, and essential here it means vital. Vital means important. These are synonyms. So essential is something vital, something important in a specific situation. Washing our hands is an essential part of ensuring that we are not affected by the COVID-19 virus. Washing our hands regularly is an essential aspect, or is an essential method of ensuring that we do not contract the COVID disease. In other words, it is important in that specific instance. So the word essential is used to mean something important, but not just generally important, something important in a specific situation or in a given context. And then we've got, I said earlier on that the activities that you undertake, the reading and writing activities that you presently undertake will be remedial, will help you to remedy some of the mistakes you might encounter later on in life, or some of the mistakes that you may make while writing your exam. So something remedial. Remedial is from the word remedy. And remedial means to take corrective action with a view to improving something. In most schools, there are those special programs known as remedial classes. Why are they called remedial classes? In other words, these are classes that are designed or that are meant to re-examine or to evaluate what you've covered with a view to making corrections for the sake of improvement. So something remedial is something that, or a remedial exercise is an exercise that is meant to correct mistakes that have been made with a view to improving such a situation. Now, I'll end today by saying that most of my lessons will be remedial in nature. I do not specifically know who is tackling what, where, at which time. I'm not aware of that. But I'm just trying to figure out some of the difficulties learners might be encountering in the process of learning. Well, psychologists say that the human brain is the same. No one is born stupid. No one has a lesser brain than the other. But the development of your brain depends on the way you condition your brains to work. That is why I was very emphatic that instead of spending a lot of your time on the devices you have at home, spend more of that time on actually physically reading and writing things that matter, things that will be important to you later on in life. So for our future lessons, I hope I will get feedback from you, and I will structure my lessons in a remedial way, in a way that will aim to improve and correct what you already know or what you do not know. Otherwise, for today, I'll stop there. And next time we meet, we are going to look at the important steps you need to take in order to produce effective type of writing, or in simple terms, which is the best way to write creatively. What are some of the things you need to know about writing a composition well, writing a composition that is appealing, writing a composition that is effective, writing a composition that is comprehensive, and writing a composition that is cohesive. In other words, a composition in which ideas naturally flow from one to the other. That is very important in your academic process. So we will look at the stages we need to bear in mind in order to produce effective writing. For today, that will be all. I encourage you to give me your feedbacks, and as we progress, we shall cover literature, different genres of literature. We shall cover different aspects of structural language, grammar, common usage, phrases, and idiomatic expressions. We are going to deal with every aspect of language that is important for your success, mainly as a student. Bye-bye. That will be all for now.